Okay, we're gonna get spoilery now. Witcher
Mhm.
season 2 from Netflix. Once again, last week, if you didn't catch it, we covered season 1, our general thoughts on how that went, and
Mhm.
our sort of background with The Witcher. And then the first half of season 2. So
Yes.
now we're gonna be covering episodes 5 through 8, second half of the show. We'll kind of try to, Andrea, you watched them most recently, so it should be most
Yes,
fresh. I'm going to rely on you
it
to
is.
kind of what happened in each here, and then we can give our
Sure.
summations at the end here. So, yeah,
So
episode
I
5.
just I just have to, like, right off the bat,
Okay.
y'all didn't prepare me emotionally for the biggest thing that happened all season. Roach died, and I was just, like, wrecked. I was like, "What?" We, like, started up the episode, and I was like, "Oh, Chris, like, we gotta get it going, like, I gotta make sure to watch, everything by next week," and, oh my god, like, just, like, all the feels right away, I just couldn't even believe it. I'm definitely, if you didn't catch this from me talking about, the episode of Queer Eye, with the animal rescue in the intro, I'm also, like, an animal person. So, like, I will watch, like, war movies and be like, "Oh my god, look at them just, like, destroy the platoon," and then, like, the cavalry comes in and somebody attacks an animal, and I'm like,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and then I'll
But-
just be a wreck for the rest of whatever. So that was this. That was this for me, you know?
Well,
People
that's
have
our
died in
interesting
Witcher,
detachment.
and I'm just like, "Whatever," and now, like, this moment right here was just my, like, break.
That's our interesting detachment from reality that a two-dimensional screen creates. That's what the thing where people always like, "Oh, you're playing violent video games, you're gonna go kill someone," or you're, watching this
Mhm.
kind of content and it's gonna affect you in a certain way. And it's like, yeah, but you do see things through a different lens. If you were
Mhm.
there and that platoon is getting gunned down, your
Right. I'm not
reaction
just
would
gonna be
be a
like,
little
"Oh."
different than the one dog that lost his life, kind
Right.
of. So we're able to have that, you know, and still, I used to have a problem with that kind of reaction, Andrea, but it's like I completely understand it now because it's just the innocence
It
factor.
is,
Yes.
it is.
Animals don't have they're not my we had that discussion about evil and good for a while or
Yeah.
whatever, basically. And animals don't have that that kind of capacity. They just are, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Well,
you of course feel bad.
this came right after, Roach nudges Siri out of the way of this, like, flying, attacky, whatever. I don't know what this particular monster was called. I know we have a lot of other names floating around, others that have appeared this season, but yeah, right after Roach, basically just, like, shoves Siri out of the way, and we get this massive clawing that is obviously something that,
Yeah.
we can't heal and Roach can't come back from, and it was just, like, a whole emotional moment. It was
Yeah.
awful. So
Well, and
that was something big for me to, like, open the second half of the season. So, well done on the writer's part for, like, opening the second half of the season, just tugging on the heartstrings.
it's rough though too, because it is an animal. Roaches does have that innocence, but it's also that is Geralt's best friend, right? In
Right.
a world where
We've
he
had
has
so
none.
many Yes, we've had so many little moments where, Geralt's talking to Roach, or, a little offhand comment, little pat here or there, a little, like, "I'm gonna take care of you," that clearly shows, like, a bond, because sometimes this is his only one. And yeah, it's rough.
But then to throw a wrench into it, the reason all of his horses are called Roach is because they die.
Right.
Yeah. And that was
So
something,
it's like,
I had read prior. So I mean, there was obviously something, to be said about, I get that, to an extent, like, the horse is expendable, but we haven't really seen multiple roaches yet
Yeah.
in
right.
the TV Witcher, so of course it was
Yep.
tough.
I'll
So
let
we
you get
do
on with the
have
rest. I have thoughts on that.
okay. All right. we do going back a little bit, we do have to say that we had the whole drama with Ciri wanting to be a Witcher and going through
Yes.
that, like, hey, Vesemir, dope me up. Let's get juiced, you know?
Mhm.
And that I was wondering if they were really gonna do it. Like,
I
how
knew
this
they
season
weren't.
started, I'm like, "Are they gonna do this? Like, are they just throwing it all out the window? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening?" You know? And,
I'm surprised they didn't.
yeah. I mean, I was a little surprised, and I wonder how accurate it is. I was a little surprised with Vesemir. I mean, I kinda understand his
Mhm.
anxiousness to, like you say, they're kinda making a desperation thing for him, "We need
Mhm.
more Witchers," sort of thing. But it did not seem like the, fatherly, wizened thing
Yeah.
that, someone with his experience would jump to doing,
Mhm.
especially knowing someone he's close to, Geralt, would have major problems with this.
Yes.
Yeah, I have been told that that is polar opposite for Vesemir's character. In fact, that's the only that is the biggest inaccuracy to this point with his depiction. Actor
Sure.
apparently is on point. The casting is on point, but that is I've been told that Vesemir does not want more Witchers because of the pain that it causes for the individual. Like this is it's not him wanting to
Mm.
create more and have more brothers and have more, sons or whatnot and have more witchers, if you will. This is
Mhm.
total opposite characterization. He sees this more like a curse, than
Yeah.
Mm.
anything.
Which is feels more in line with even the animated movie they did with him,
Mm.
and thinking in the game how much he cares for Siri. And right, having seen how many people don't survive the process,
Mhm.
it's just not a thing. And again, the Witchers at large and him for sure aren't the type that are we need to like be making some sacrifice for the greater good or for the world
Mhm.
at large. It really is like this was the way of life. This is what I was handed. That's the way things go, and we make the best of it, and we do what we do.
Right.
Not like we're on a crusade. We need to have an army of witchers because the world is. I mean, otherwise the world will be consumed by monsters. It's just not really their thought process there, to my understanding.
Mhm.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I didn't come to this scene knowing that background. Um so my thoughts in seeing like Siri get ready to possibly become a witcher were one. I felt like I'd hoped, and I'm glad the writers didn't make her a witcher before we kind of knew everything that was going on, with her already. Like she already had a lot of like, you know, importance in the fact that she has elder blood. What does that mean? Like, what is the chaos inside of her? Like,
Yep.
where is this going? We can't introduce another new element. She can't be a witcher now too, and like before we understand what it means, for what is originally going on with her. So I was really pretty confident that the writers weren't going to do that, and then glad when I was correct. Um, and yeah, I was a little disappointed in Vesemir because it on the one hand he was like there, he was kind of ready to do it, but then he backed off and he was like, ah, is this really what you want? And I thought we were gonna get some like very fatherly speech about like this isn't just like something you do for fun and it's brutal and I wouldn't wish this way of life on you. And maybe Siri is like trying to do it on her own somehow. And then he
Yeah.
like flip-flopped back and he's like, well, she made a choice. And I'm like, but did she really
Yeah.
informed, think about this and like really, kind of sit with it? Or was it just like she said, I know what I'm doing, and you wanted to take it so badly, you were just kind of like, okay, all right, she knows she made a choice.
Mhm.
So I was a little
I can,
disappointed in that.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like if they were trying to do like a consent thing or something. It's kind of I won't that's what I want to ruin the. If I can talk about without ruining The Last of Us Part Two, uh, spoiler free. I'll just say there's a character in there that makes a pretty large choice for another character in a way, and that's like, and some people are seeing that as like taking away her autonomy, but it's
Mhm.
like, well, you're supposed to understand where both people are coming from in this or
Sure.
whatever. Um, but Siri is very young. She's not, she's not really autonomous at this point. She's gaining autonomy as she grows up and
Mhm.
learns more and all this stuff or whatever. I don't know what her age is in this, but yeah, I thought
She
it
seems
was
around like a if we're talking like human years, like maybe like a 14,
something like that, right? Yeah. I mean,
you
I'm sure
know?
the actress is older, but the character
Yeah,
is
right,
younger,
right.
like it's
Yeah. That's my
um
best guess, like around like 14, 15. Like we're just kind of getting into like teenage-ish,
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
And I don't know how old, because she's got elder blood, I don't know if there's like different aging process or whatever, but yeah, just comparably, that's where I would say she's at for like
Yep.
measuring of a human.
Yep. So, yeah, someone that's again wizened and experienced and pretty compassionate generally speaking. I think it seems weird to like embrace this clearly rash decision.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's one thing that you got the blood to make it. Okay, that's a
right.
step. You don't have to then immediately like
Turn
we're gonna
around and use
start.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
especially.
Well, and yeah, like there's clearly so many warnings there of like, this isn't exactly like it was before. Like we don't know that this is like the exact same,
yeah,
potion that made the original witches. We don't exactly, Triss is very like, we don't know exactly what this does. Like just because it seems similar doesn't mean it's gonna have the exact same effects.
yep,
So yeah, it does seem very rash to not even just like test it somehow, you
yeah.
know.
Well, and why
Poison
would she?
testa. Yeah.
Why her? I guess I never really entirely tracked on that. Did they explain why it had to be Siri as the first one to try? Because, like Andrea,
No.
like
Oh
you
no.
said, they've got her blood, right? It could be any other orphan child again.
Yeah.
That's been dropped off, just like Geralt and all of the others. So why would you take the person that has the source of
Right.
your ingredient
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it
and
seems very
taint it?
short-sighted because then you don't know how that would change, her blood, and therefore like stymie you from making witchers again. If that's really, if we're accepting that like this is TV show Vesemir's goal, and
Hmm.
that's what he wants. It seems that introducing like a new component to her makeup would therefore like possibly change her elder blood. You don't know.
Right,
And therefore, like you've cut yourself off from making witchers again. So it's very like
right.
short-sighted.
Yeah. And
Yep.
as we'll get to later, have you seen The Witchers? Do you want to be one of them? I don't know. Um,
Well,
Do you want to
and
be
as we'll get to
sterile?
later, have you seen what happens to the person who does take this potion? And do you want to be like that?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not pretty.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So you'd mentioned Triss. So we had a little,
Hmm.
as you mentioned in your comments, kind of walk down memory lane, little experiment, mind trick, whatever that
Hmm.
she did, which was pretty interesting. And I like your comment here about her sort of freak out. I did
Yeah.
think that was odd. Again, the adult in the room making the poor decision, or the
Yeah.
overreaction.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand her being very freaked out that, her magic didn't work exactly the way it normally does. It's always unsettling when you're like, okay, normally we can take a
When your
walk into
spell
the
goes awry,
past.
tell
Yeah,
me about it. Yeah.
normally, yeah. I hate that. Ugh, the
Mhm.
worst. Um, so yeah, so normally, she's like, we take a walk through the past. We can't really interact with the characters that we're seeing. But somehow it does happen this way, and then one of them actually reaches out and like chokes her. Totally understand that, freaking you out. But she just like goes like so over the top with like, you know, the things I've seen, and I now know what she is. And, she like sort of takes that knowledge, that she's just learned, and takes it out on Siri and makes her feel terrible. And like,
Yeah.
furthers this notion in her mind that she's so different and horrible and destined to do like tragically awful things.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
And, just like kind of the idea of, if you're the adult in the room, slash, being the parent in the room, you can't really do that. You don't have the
Mhm.
luxury of just giving into that blind panic. You
The
have to
ship is
hold,
going down,
yeah,
guys, kids. The ship. We're all gonna die.
you're fucked. This is it.
Yeah,
You push them out of the way to get on the life raft. Make
well,
room.
Right.
that's why you got Yennefer for Mother of the Year. Oh,
Whoop. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I didn't really love Triss here. She does seem so pulled together so much, and then she just kind of like loses it, and yeah, just sort of like furthers this whole narrative for Siri that she's doomed to bring trouble to everyone.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, Mike, you mentioned Yennefer. So the rest of the episode, we're talking about Yennefer and Yaskir or Dandelion is being tortured.
Oh,
Um,
I'm not clapping for the torture.
oh,
I was
okay.
clapping for them. I was
oh,
so
that did look
excited, and
bad.
then you were like, torture.
Yeah.
Whoops. Just
Yeah.
gonna backpedal that.
I mean,
We all
yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
I'm a very interesting person. On the one hand, you attack a horse and I cry. On the other hand, torture, and I've got, all
Yeah.
day.
Yep. So we've
Um,
got oh, go ahead.
yeah. No, continue.
We got the one trick pony with the fire fingers. I think I don't know. Andrew had some other nickname for the person. I don't remember what it was exactly,
Oh
but
yeah.
Well, they call
What,
him, yeah,
what we
you're
got?
just making me say it now. I've already popped the cherry, so let's just like continue on. They call him a firefucker. So, which is just like excellent. Even
yeah, he's a real
mild-mannered
real
Triss,
jerk.
when she's talking about him, she calls him that. So,
See, that's the problem. You just called Triss mild mannered. That's the impression the show gives you.
yes.
It
I
That's
is.
the
mean I
wrong
mean,
impression.
she's got
That's
she's
the
got
problem.
some moments, but yeah, on
The
the whole, she
fire.
seems very like
Yeah.
pulled
Yeah.
together. So,
Well, yeah, together, but mild mannered. And you're
yeah.
right. That's the way the show represents Triss.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
um,
they're taking a lot of creative license with a lot of characters in this direction. We just talked about Vesemir being,
Right.
yep,
motivated in 100%, 180-degree different direction. So,
Mhm.
yep.
um, I thought Yennefer in that scene with Rience or Firefucker was pretty cool. I like seeing her rely on her guile, her
Mhm.
wit. You know,
Yes.
it's nice to see that she doesn't just collapse into a puddle because old Yennefer, like old Yennefer, original
Right.
Yennefer,
Yep, yep.
would have. So
Right.
you can see that her growth throughout this has not just been based on her access to power. She
Mhm.
has
A
become a
competence.
strong. Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I
Well,
dig that.
she's got wits. Um I really dug this episode. I know that we had talked a lot about, in the first half of the season, there was a lot of character regression. And I
Mhm.
felt like she took a bit of a recovery step here. Um, it didn't last for me, the whole rest of the season, unfortunately. But this episode here was very strong for her, both in the fact that like she isn't a hypocrite. She got off the boat, off the boat to safety. Um,
Yeah.
and stayed back to find Yaskir. So I was like, "Go you, because you just tore that elf a new one for abandoning
Yeah.
his friend. Good for you for not doing the same." She finds someone who she thinks can go find information about what happened to Yaskir, about the incident at the docks. She finds him, is able to get him out. Um, is very like clever in the way she goes a lot about about a lot of different things in this episode. So it was nice to see her kind of like improving, um, being courageous, being steadfast and loyal, not totally like changing her character and being nice to Yaskier all the time. Their banter was just like so excellent. That was some fun bit of writing. I think the actors clearly have like a great rapport with each other. Um, so yeah, so overall a strong episode I thought for her.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. I agree. It's good to see Yen be nice for once.
Also,
Um,
that burn was sick.
mhm, mhm.
Like
Yeah.
like words and actual fire. Just
I mean,
girl.
yeah, yeah. You
I mean,
didn't.
she
Yeah, I
really was.
know.
She was quick
You're,
on her
you're waiting for
feet.
one of us to say sick burn. I mean, I don't know. Mike's the dad. I don't know who's got to make that. Yeah.
It's okay.
So
We all got a little daddy in us. Go for it.
yeah. But yeah, then we get to episode 6 where we're talking about the poor Roach meeting his end, and that's new. I was a little I thought it was a little strange how I was like, where did Geralt come from when he kind of came flying out to
Mhm.
defeat the beast? I thought it was
Yeah.
a little strange looking or whatever, but
Mhm.
otherwise, yeah, some emotional bits
Yeah,
there. Roach.
this season, this part of the season had a little bit of Game of Thrones quality where people popped up in places where you're like, so it's like a minute's travel then from place to place, and you can just like be
Yeah,
wherever you want to be, even without like portals.
yeah.
Cool. This wasn't like quite, I think, because we haven't really got a sense as clear of where things are in this world.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like where everything is in relation to each other. We know there are different nations, but they seem almost from the beginning of the show, they've all seemed like really close together. So it isn't
Yeah.
quite as like you have to travel huge expanses, but still there were moments where I was like, all right, like suddenly we're in Sintra, suddenly we're like just popping up at Camorin, like cool, I guess
Yeah.
everything's right there.
Just a horseback ride away. No big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
NBD.
I think it is an overlooked element. I don't know if it's just the generation that's just used to working from home, and then you can hit order on something and it shows up your door in 2 hours, you know? It's like,
Can I
"Oh, yeah,
order
this
Geralt's?
yeah,
Is that a
I
thing?
mean,
Show up on my doorstep 2 hours later.
the shipping charge for that, it's probably pretty high.
Obviously worth
Um,
it.
but yeah, I think it is an issue.
Mhm,
It's yeah, anywhere you go on horseback and buggy, like it's a trek and not an easy ride. So
mhm,
it would be something that would I mean, isn't that supposed to be part of the great benefit of these television shows now that aren't on television? They're on a streaming service. You don't
mhm.
the episodes can be a variety of length. It could be a 38-minute episode, it can be
Yep.
a 55-minute episode, it can be an hour and 15,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it can be depending on, what budget you can secure, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 12 episodes. So, do you have to, fast travel everywhere? Do
Mhm.
you
Yep.
have to pretend this is the video game when you fast travel? Because
You do.
that's the issue with the movie. In the movie, you have to condense it. Here, you
Right.
have
No,
the
you do.
freedom.
You do have to do it though, because your audience dictates that you have to do it. Your audience has been conditioned by video games, by movies, um, and I mean, all you have to do is look to the Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian is a very, very well liked, well loved show. But one of the things about it was that people would be like, "Well, this particular episode just seemed like a side quest. It didn't advance the story." You'd hear that a lot.
Mhm.
And if you're going to show the distance, on horseback, you're going to have some of those episodes that feel like side quests. And for
Mhm.
whatever reason, people just, if it's not driving the story forward, maybe it's part of binge culture. I don't know.
Sure.
But if it's not driving the story forward, people are like, why am I watching this? Why did I sit through 45 minutes of that? It
Right.
could be important.
But that's why shows that are have a lot of like depth to them, we're not just watching one set of characters. We're not watching
Mhm.
one traveling group. It's a big complaint about Lord of the Rings. All he's doing is walking. Well, there's a lot of other group.
Mm.
Yes, Frodo and Sam and Gollum are doing a lot of walking, but there's other things going on. Debates happening, battles taking place, chases, whatever, to occupy time with. So you can
Mhm.
have an episode where the story that's being progressed is someone else's story.
Mhm.
It's someone else that's central to what's happening in the world that isn't our main protagonist or two or whatever,
Mhm.
you know?
But you still run into the same problem of so then you snap back, right? So we split off and we tell this story of this other group, and then you snap back, and unless you're like 3 days later, right? People are still going to be like, "What are you? They just left, And then you
Mhm.
told the story, and now they're here already. Like that doesn't make sense. The time doesn't quite work unless you go through it, and you're. It, I'm not saying you can't do it in a story to be effective. What I'm saying
Mhm.
is that if the audience doesn't want it, you can't
Mhm.
tell that story well. And so it's that audience's perception, right? That they're trying to tread the line. That's why I say you can't do it well anymore because
Mm.
people aren't willing to watch it.
Yeah, I would push back in like the tiniest sense in so far as to say like I think shows can do it when they've had a lot of seasons. um like when I'm thinking about my own experience recently watching like Supernatural for example, they're now so deep into like the later seasons where it's like big huge story arcs all season long, that the audience almost feels like a side quest episode is really nice, because sometimes you need like a break from the ever like relentless driving forward of this big long narrative arc, and you just kind of want like a problem that's solved in an episode, and it doesn't have anything to do with the larger story, and it's just like a fun like, whew, okay, we can all just like take a beat and have some fun, and then okay, we're getting back to our like crazy storyline. Whereas like this is only the second season of Witcher. You can't really have a break from the major storyline yet, because we haven't like done those like big arcs like for a very long time where people are like feeling almost like the arc is a grind. So that would be my only like pushback on, people do like side questy things, but they like them way later on when, we've done a lot of like exploring of big important storylines, I think.
I think with the right writing, but it has to be planned this way,
Mhm.
so yes, you can't just skip to, okay, this episode we're talking about this, and then the next episode you're back to where the previous one left off and just they're at a new spot now, because
Right.
you have to make it feel like it was arduous. It's a complaint I had with Wheel of Time when they're in the, I won't spoil anything, but they're in all the rat's nest of stuff.
Yep.
It's like
The
we're
blight,
just
yeah.
I'm like, to me, oh, they're setting off like on a Frodo kind of journey. This is the quest now. We're going to be going through this for
Mhm.
months. They're traveling and they're trying to survive and they're going through the tricks and the traps and the poisons and everything. And they're just like, we're through it.
There.
It's
Yep.
done.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
Geralt moves from Camorin to Sintra, and it feels fast, like he's traveled a shorter distance than they did in the movie Jurassic Park. And in the Jurassic
Mhm.
Park, they stayed on one island. There's a problem. When they like
Right.
in Jurassic Park, they literally just went on a track around an island, and it feels like it was a long journey, like because they went through so much. The physical changes in the characters, from the beginning, they're fine to the end, like you frizzed hair and like torn clothes and all this stuff, they've been through the ringer.
Right.
Right.
Geralt's like, we're on the horse, we're galloping, and then we're there.
Yep.
I think it's
Well, now,
lazy. I think people can put up with it if it's written well. And I think they're being lazy.
hey, Yennefer made a comment that they can't continue running these horses so much or they're going to die.
Oh, well, there it
She
is.
said that,
There it
and
is.
then
It's
and
true.
then 20 seconds later they were sprinting on the horses again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, but still.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just don't want to have to get used to like these kind of things, like
Yeah.
because Game of Thrones really put it to the forefront. Like, okay, this is getting nuts, and yeah, just because Game of Thrones did it and got away with it, I guess, doesn't give you the right,
Got yeah, got away with it with, like, a lot of
yeah,
complaints.
yeah,
People I think
Yes.
they got away with it because people were still, like, in that "It's Game of Thrones, I need to watch it" mindset.
hmm
Yep.
They hadn't fallen so far off the cliff yet that people were just like, "Ugh," like,
yep.
"Game of Thrones is terrible." But yeah, Witcher's not there, and I don't want it to
Right.
ever get there.
I
You
mean,
make a good point.
So, like,
Mike,
Danger Will Robinson, like, red flashing lights, like, back away from this particular, you know, writing style or plot usage or whatever you wanna call it, like, back
They
away
have
from
not
this.
earned they have not earned the right to be lazy yet.
No,
yep.
mm-mm.
See, Mike, example in our D&D campaign,
Yes.
the one of the goals for you
I mean, I don't
was
play D&D. That's for nerds. What are you talking
Yeah,
was that
this
amount
podcast is not for nerds.
about?
the destination was a mountain,
Yeah.
and you're from one place to a mountain. That was so in the Witcher show, you would have departed the village
Yep.
and
Mhm,
then arrived at the mountain.
Sweet.
Well, so
I'm
right.
just kidding.
So that's the next so you know, I instead like made an area that you'd have challenges and struggles throughout. So your characters have to face something and deal with something and explore something
Right.
before just getting there. Because of those, we're just talking. It's just talking. So I can say, well, you departed and it's pretty nice out, and you drove, rode through the woods, and then before you is a mountain. Okay,
mhm,
you just traveled
Right.
for 2.5 days, but it felt like nothing because we
mhm,
didn't we didn't make it feel like something.
Right.
You know.
Well, and to your point, you know, I think if you were to ask Adam or Tony or JP, one of the most memorable events of our campaign so far is that scene with us on horseback running from right
Mhm.
the zombies in that marsh, which was between that, right? That was
Yep.
part of that journey. And so to your point, there's a lot of important things that can still happen in storytelling
mhm.
that you can uncover. Just because you're traveling from A to B doesn't mean that it has to be bland, right? You
Yep.
can
Right.
grow and learn. So I guess what I'm saying, John, is you are a better writer than the Witcher
Oh,
showrunner.
wow. Perfect. Thanks. That's what I was fishing for. I mean, that's what
Sure.
the
Bait
whole
salt.
thing's about, right? Like
You're done.
John's
Yeah.
like, "I'm retiring." Boom.
uh, okay. All right. So, now that I've got what I wanted, we're gonna move on. Um, we're dealing with the elves and the
Mhm.
Nilfgaardians and trying to make that relationship happen. But we have the baby now. I don't think I'm skipping ahead here, but we have the baby, and um it's very
Well, the one thing that does happen is Cahir comes back. Um, you know,
yeah,
Yennefer's previous traveling companion, he comes
yeah.
back and is sort of like half a second of like, cool, like the elves are here, maybe this is gonna work. Just kidding. I'm gonna be like a giant asshole, and clearly this is now gonna actually be a problem that Nilfgaard is
Wasn't
working
that
with the elves.
I mean, but it's kind of difference between like having the individual sympathy and like what's our strategic, you
Yeah, no,
know.
no. All I mean is like storyline wise, like there was like half a second where you're like, okay, so this is like, he's like he's sympathetic and he says, we
Mhm,
are trying to like, provide equality and freedom for these people, and you were like, okay, so this partnership is gonna happen. He's not gonna come back and make trouble for Fringilla and Francesca, and then suddenly he was just like 180, like, I'm actually gonna be an asshole about it and make a big stink, and this partnership is, gonna be tested.
mhm.
So yeah, that's all I meant is like there was a little bit of
Yep.
like, misdirection there.
And we do see it start to fall apart quick, the
Yes.
relationship, and surprisingly quick to me because it's like,
Mhm.
what did you think was going to happen exactly here? Like you were brought in, you have some protection. Well, now you have to fight.
Mhm.
for us. Like we're in this together. So it's a
Right.
pretty to me it seemed pretty for a race that's really on the outs, it seemed
Mhm.
like a really ballsy, arrogant kind of move that, well, we have our child now, and so kind of F you, we're not really gonna do this. Um,
Right.
so I was pretty surprised with how that went. Um,
Yep.
and
Same.
deteriorated fast. And obviously then that's gonna be Fringilla freaking out because her prize for the emperor is
Right.
eroding.
Yeah, and I have to say that I was really disappointed because in the scene that we have with Francesca and Fringilla right before Francesca goes into labor, they really seem in sync. They seem like they're developing a really strong bond of like equals. They share a vision, and it really seems like this could be a cool, formidable pairing that could
Mhm.
really trouble, obviously, the rest of the world, especially the Brotherhood.
Yep.
And it just dissipates so quickly. And I was really disappointed because I was looking forward to seeing where that went.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but if you are a being, a creature that lives for so many centuries, are you telling me that in all of that time you really learned so little about social interaction that you think that's
Mhm.
going to be all right? You
Right.
Right.
think them going to bring you in and you're going to be like on the bed and like, actually, you know what? No. Come on, you're
Right.
Yeah.
hundreds of years old.
Right. Let me
Mhm.
like continue to live here and whatnot, but I'm
Yeah,
not going to actually do anything for you. Just going to like live
And you know how many people hate
and
you.
be. Yeah.
right.
You know the tenuous relationship. He's like, how would you even expect to walk out of there alive? You
Hmm.
Right.
know, it was very strange to me.
Yeah, Fringilla seems so supportive. I mean, she was very
Yep.
like, you know, I know what a big deal this is to have this elven baby born. I'm going to give you grace and like I'm going to celebrate with you. Like I really felt like you felt that character's joy and relief, because there was obviously a moment where we were like, "Oh my god, this baby is being, is born but is dead,
Yeah.
is not alive." And
Hmm.
there's like a real moment of panic for her and this like I just felt her relief when the baby
Yeah.
cried out.
Because you
And
knew
so
you're
it
probably not getting what you wanted if the baby doesn't live.
well, I mean, I felt like it on both levels. I mean, that she wasn't gonna get what she wanted, absolutely, but I did feel like on a personal level, she liked Francesca, and
Frangilla, I don't know. You
I'm
gave her
not
too
saying
much
she's
credit.
I don't know, I'm not saying she's, like, gonna run out and, like, oh, she's feeling some
Yeah.
maternal instinct, like, "I wanna have a
Maybe
baby of my
yeah,
own."
maybe.
But
Yep.
I think, like, just the relationship and the rapport she had with Francesca, she was like, "Woof, okay."
Yeah.
Like, you know? So I really felt like this was going somewhere strong, and then we just, like, undercut that a lot
Yep.
with Francesca's, "Surprise! I
Mhm.
like you, but I like my baby so much more that I'm just gonna, like, cut off our interaction."
Yep. I think, to me, the show's notes went, Fringilla fails at Siege.
Mhm.
Fringilla needs to recover her image with the Emperor.
Mhm.
Has elves. Elves don't work out. Like, it's
Right.
like and so, okay, we gotta get from the point of, like, okay, have the elves on our side to elves don't work out. We had to get there. How is that
Right.
gonna happen? I don't know, but we're gonna make that connection. And
Well, and
so,
it's
there's
so
some
funny
way that's gonna
because
happen.
yeah, it's so funny because those first 3 bullets can really happen in rapid succession. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? We were all, I feel like, there with, like, she
Yeah.
failed. Okay, what do we do now? Okay, we have this very, like, tenuous bargain with the elves, like, okay, we're bringing it back. But I think we needed to see the erosion happen more slowly.
It's almost you'd almost take it as a sign, like, if you're spiritual, like, that things are going right. You've
Yes.
aligned now with the Nilfgaardians. you're on the right path because now you had a baby that's alive. Like you'd stay the path because if
Right.
you're looking at it in a spiritual lens that way, a prophetic lens, then it's like I'm on the right course here.
Right.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um. So let's see. Then we have. I think this is where Geralt's bringing Ciri, to this kind
Mhm.
of sanctuary,
Yes.
and trying to teach her a little bit how to harness magic. It's not going super well, but we kind of have some slower scenes here, sort of a little talking to the keeper there and lighting
Right.
candles and
We meet actually a lot of new characters in this episode. I feel like a lot of like the focus is around, what's happening with the Nilfgaardians and with the elves, and obviously that's like, part of our very big plot line here. But we meet a lot of new people in, yeah, we go to this like academy slash sanctuary. We meet Neneke, um, who Geralt is like, I studied with her, I studied here, this was my home for a time. So we're kind of getting like little snippets of background here. We also meet um the like other mage who's not a mage anymore, I think is her story with Candlefinger, Reince, you know.
yep,
She's like a co-conspirator of
yeah,
his, and then we like
right,
flash away. We get these like two questioner historian people who are talking about some prophecies, talking
yep,
about Siri, and then we kind of flash away from them too. And I was sort of like, "Hi,
yep,
welcome to the show, everybody."
yeah.
So yeah,
It
I
was
don't
a
know if
lot.
anybody else was
Yep.
just kind of like as surprised as I was, but there were a lot of new character introductions in this episode.
I like the added depth. I liked, a little mystery there. It also says Lydia. I didn't realize that was Lydia,
Yeah,
the
Lydia
the
is
mage,
with
the
Fire.
sorceress. So,
Candle
that's
guy,
interesting.
Candle fingers. She is a
Yeah.
mage. Okay.
So that's interesting. Um, yeah, I generally enjoyed most of this. Little bit of background, wondering who is Lydia working for, you know,
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
Who's
And
Candlefinger working for?
yeah, like what are the real motivations there? It's kind of interesting. And then Yennefer shows up. I mean, that's kind of obviously a big deal for the pair of them, for Geralt and Yennefer,
Hmm.
are reuniting. Um, how do we think that went? And yeah, thoughts there on their reuniting finally.
Oh, dude, I was
Mike,
all
you can
about
go
it.
ahead.
I was
All
You
all
were
about
all
it.
about it.
about it?
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, get together. I'm totally on the Geralt Yennefer thing. I'm like, do it. Um, and then I was immediately like, oh man,
Yeah.
because
Right.
you know the ulterior motive just comes straight through. I was like, shit, that's a
Yep.
Mhm.
bummer. But yeah, I liked the. It continues to astound me the characterization that Henry Cavill can provide whilst playing a very stoic character.
Mhm.
Those
Mhm.
two things don't seem to mix well. You have a person who is supposed to be, he's not actually cold, but he gives off a cold demeanor, right?
Mhm.
That's supposed to be the unique characteristic of a Geralt, is that he does allow emotions to take hold and whatnot. Um, but he's still Iceman, and yet
Mhm.
Yep.
Henry does that with a calm, quiet voice, typically. A lot of acting with his eyes and just little
Mhm.
mouth twitches. It's just I love seeing that so much. So
Mhm.
big
Mhm.
props on that end.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. He does stoically emotional well. It's hard to, emote through what you're supposed to have as a mask, and he does that really, really well.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I like you was really excited about this, reunion. I did not see it coming. It was a little like out of the blue, so I was just like, "What?" Yeah. But immediately something felt off, and I wondered if someone was perhaps like, playing Yennefer and it wasn't actually her, because I was like,
Oh,
I don't know, something is wrong here. She's not acting quite right. And then, of course, it was Yennefer, but with ulterior motives. And I was like, that's what I'm sensing. That's what's not right. You
Yep.
know, she's clearly here for something else, and it's not just like, to
Yep.
get to know Geralt and his relationship with his new child of
right.
surprise. So
So yeah, we have a fight. Geralt takes on a bunch of dudes, and
okay, is it weird
then
that
they
I'm
escape.
sorry, I hated it, that fight.
So I don't
Like
remember
the
hating
kills
it.
were cool.
Uh huh.
Like he did some crazy shit with a sword, but there was like some slow-mo and I was just sort of like, mm, no. No, I don't like it. Like there was a slow-mo punch where he like knocks out somebody's teeth
Oh
and it was
yeah,
all just like
yeah.
he like winds up for the punch and then suddenly it does that typical slow-mo where it does even the sound where it's like and you just like
Yeah, it's
see
out of
this
place.
yeah, I hated it.
It's
It's the
kind of like
first time I felt like I hated a fight in this show, in this
okay.
series, and I didn't like it.
I thought they were trying to top probably the person fight. Alan says guest directors Zack Snyder. No
Are you
way.
serious?
What? Oh
Shut
my
No,
up.
god. Of course
no.
he puts the slow motion in there.
You got
He
us.
Oh,
goes,
okay.
You
"No
got us.
joke."
Okay. Just,
You heard us, Alan, like,
it's like,
well played, sir. I'm salute
I'm
you.
like
I
I'm
was
like, how
in. I
would
was
I
like,
not
"Look
see
at
that
your
in the
face."
credits? Oh my god. Like
Oh my
uh
god.
yeah,
Seriously.
it just
Got us all. We were all just like, "Ah."
I so it's something that in like Robert Downey and um what's his name? Oh, Dumbledore now. What British guy.
Jude Law. Jude
Jude
Law.
Law in
Yeah,
Sherlock
in
Holmes,
that
obviously
yeah.
Guy
Mhm.
Ritchie, they took that kind of style into a period piece, and for the film and the way they do that, it works.
For a very
But this
yeah, I
is
was
out
gonna
of
say for a very
place.
specific purpose
Yeah,
Yeah.
and did it in a very like, okay, I'm gonna slow-mo it because let me like get you into Sherlock's brain because he like thinks about it as it's happening and we're gonna narrate the
but
fight. And it was very stylistic. You can
yeah,
like it or you cannot. I'm just saying it was very
yeah,
like we're making this specific choice every time. This was like the first time Witcher had like a slow-mo, like
yeah,
like I said, with the iconic slow-mo like sound and everything. And
yeah.
I didn't like it.
They could have they could employ slow-mo in a way that would make sense in this show and in this universe. When he
Mhm.
takes that potion, right? The blizzard
Mhm.
potion. When he
Yeah.
takes that, then slow-mo would make sense if you're doing it from
His
Geralt's
perspective.
perspective.
Yes.
Right,
I agree with you.
right.
That'd be
Yeah, but
cool.
this you're
This
absolutely right. This
wasn't
doesn't
that.
make sense.
Mhm.
No.
That could
And
be actually really cool. I would
Yeah.
like
yeah,
to do that.
I
Yeah.
would dig that.
Mhm.
Uh, but season one, the combat was so visceral, right? It
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
fast camera action following him, and that is a cool aspect of this. So I'm
Mhm.
in total agreement.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying like, the moments where Geralt was fighting, there were flashes, there were cool moments, there were cool kills. But yeah, just like the slow-mo teeth punching in particular, I just thought was like very egregious. And I was like,
Yep.
no. No, thank you.
Well, speaking of sort of a ultimate slow mo, I think it's this next
Mhm.
episode. I don't know if I'm jumping around here. You can correct me, but it's when so there's sort of this pissing match between the generals and Fringilla and who's gonna
Oh,
be in charge and stuff. And she's like, "Okay, I need to, I need to save face here. This is what's happening." And so she poisons everyone, and
baller.
that was a
Ugh.
pretty cool scene.
Yeah, it was hard to
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch it at a certain point. A certain part of it.
That oh, oh. Yeah, no. Cannot say enough cool things about that. in particular. I mean, that is like an excellent, it was like explained, but not in like a boring way. She was just like, let me take my boss moment and just explain to you all why pissing me off was such a terrible idea because I know this, I know that. Here's how I'm using it against you right now. I know you can't show facial expressions, but if you could, like, you would just be like, you know, a twisted viscera of fear because I
Yep.
have you.
Yep.
So good.
And she better enjoy it now because this is why, not this specific case, but this is why mages and sorcerers don't have always such a good time in Witcher World. I mean,
Mhm.
Sure.
just as you would in any time or whatever, some populace or group or whatever that's deemed to be the ones to be afraid of
Mhm.
is sought by higher authority and by public to squash out. And
Right.
this is a good showcase of power, and be a good
So
reminder of
good.
the show, where depending on where the show goes, why they're to be feared. So
Mhm.
It's a good point. Um, can I just ask, why is it always Nightshade? It's always Nightshade. Is there
Yeah.
something I don't know?
it sounds
Um,
cool.
it does.
Yeah.
It
Is
does.
it, I mean, as someone who hasn't played the games, is Nightshade in the game?
I mean,
No, I
not that I
feel
Or
like it's
remember, but
I feel
okay.
like it's in so many other stories though.
Oh,
Like
no, I totally
Nightshade is
agree
the
with
yeah,
thing.
you.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Um,
and you definitely collect all kinds of herbs and different things. I think that are like uniquely named in the game,
Mhm.
so they could use something like that. That's one of those things.
Sure.
hmm,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
it
Um,
was sweet.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's,
cool.
yeah, that particular moment is farther in the episode. So there are definitely some things I feel like we should mention in that episode, but yeah, that was absolutely my favorite part. Was just like I didn't see it coming. I thought Fringilla was like on the ropes. You know,
Mhm.
everybody, like the generals are very like, you can't do your job, we hate the elves, like, you're no leader of ours. Kay here's back, we got this guy, this is what's going on, the white flame is coming, we learned at the very end of the last episode, like, man, she is she is just losing it at every angle, and then she just
Yeah,
comes in and she's like,
desperate
here's my desperate,
measures.
yeah, here's my desperation play, and it worked out. I mean, so, like, in that
So far,
moment.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that moment, it worked
Yeah.
out, and it was just like, "Ooh." Yeah.
This is the prelude to what I think is the best scene in maybe the second season,
Okay.
in my mind.
What's that?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right.
Um, Dijkstra. I want to talk Dijkstra a little bit. Again, we have
Yeah.
lots of players. They're all like all starting to, I think you say in in your comments here, they're all starting to like understand the rarity that is this Siri person,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
wanting her for different reasons. Some
Yes.
which are more clear, some are which are a lot less clear, and who's vying for her and what places and why. And Dijkstra is
Mhm.
always a guy behind the scenes, uh, kind of a, if we talk Game of Thrones again, kind of a little finger sort of
Yeah.
character, but
Mhm.
with a little more integrity. Like
He's kind of a Littlefinger and a Varys together.
yeah, he's like, he definitely is his own entrepreneur, if you want to say that.
Mhm.
Like he's where you think of Varys and Littlefinger predominantly are pretty subservient. Like they have to do everything behind the scenes. I feel like Dijkstra, really runs a lot of things. But
Yes.
yeah, I like any scene that he's in basically, and
Mhm.
so we get to see a little more of him in this episode.
He's
Yeah,
certainly more physically imposing.
Yes.
right. Um, I particularly liked his trip to Artusa and his like squaring off with Tisea. Um,
Hmm.
you know, I felt like he gave a little and she got back and like there was a little back and forth there and I was just sort of like, man, they're both clearly masters at this and I don't know who's coming out on top, but like, they're both clearly very good at getting information that is going to like sway the brotherhood,
Hmm.
to take an interest in one thing or another. And like, Dijkstra is like, here, let me dig out what you're hiding. And she's like, oh, here, let me dig out the fact that like this is so convenient for you to mention because of X, Y, and Z. So
Right.
I don't know. I wrote game recognizes game, and I think they both have
That's a perfect way to say it.
it.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Dijkstra um there with the sorceresses and stuff, kind of outside of Novigrad and everything. I was surprised that he
Mhm,
personally would, go there. But yeah,
mhm.
fun to watch. So
I agree, but I think it was not wildly out of character, and it was a good way for him to get some screen time,
yeah.
because I
Yep.
think the more screen time for him, the better.
Yep. Um so what else are we missing from this episode yet before the ultimate episode? Other than
Reunion time.
obviously the reunion time?
Another reunion, Geralt and
Oh, with the
Jaskier
oh yeah.
There's
with
Okay.
that.
their great like Jaskier in prison. I mean, another troublesome like
Talking to
Geralt
the
can just
knights.
travel wherever he wants to and just be
Mhm.
there. But I forgave it because I was so like happy about their reunion and their banter. Jaskier is one of my favorite characters in the show because I feel like he has banter with everybody, and the guy who plays him is just like such a natural, just like everything he does. I feel like just sounds like off the cuff and like I'm
A
just actually
bard.
saying this kind of shit.
The rest
Yeah,
is a bard, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, he really is like down to his very bones. So
Mhm.
yeah,
The
that
interaction
was
with
a
the
bit.
mice was great.
Yeah, his like little mouse chorus and like oh yeah, just all of that was so fun. And then of course bringing them together has the important point of like putting all the puzzle pieces together as to what Yennefer is after, what she's going to be doing, and therefore what's going to be happening with Ciri. Because of course the last episode we saw them go through a portal together, leaving Geralt behind at that sanctuary, and it's like, shit, where are they going to go? What's going to happen? So
Yep.
their reunion was obviously very important for continuing that storyline.
Yep. And then as we'd mentioned, the great reunion for the momentary one with Geralt and Yennefer in the last episode. Obviously,
Mhm.
Geralt catches
Went
back up.
downhill very fast.
Yeah, Geralt catches back up and has little mercy for Yennefer at this point, or little patience
Right.
Mhm.
for what she you know was choosing to do here, and maybe a little late that now Yennefer starts to realize how special Ciri is, that she would decide, okay, let's not do this. Geralt's not
Yeah.
there in Sintra. That's not, you know, um, but yeah, tense moments.
Still,
Mhm.
What's that?
still have problems with that. I still have
Oh yeah,
problems with that. Yeah.
With what?
Like with Yennefer realizing how important Ciri is. It's not her own growth. Like this is part of why I have just a problem in feeling like Yennefer has just gone backwards again.
Mhm.
Is because she's not realizing that what she's doing is wrong because what she's doing is wrong.
right.
She's realizing it because just serious, wow, she's powerful, she's important in the grand scheme of things. It's like, no, man, you're about to sacrifice a little girl for power,
Right.
and power was never your answer. Like, that-
Yep.
that's frustrating to me.
Yep.
Like, that is the wrong revelation for her to come to. I
Mhm.
feel like it's the easy one, it's
Right.
really easy to write,
That's why
but
in the game I chose Triss. Yennefer,
all
the
right,
crows can have her. I have to say that I did. It is like season one really made me change my mind on Yennefer, and then season two
Yeah.
starts making me change my mind back. You know, so yeah,
sure.
it's I
So
agree.
maybe
It's
this
just
is a
disappointing.
meta thing that I'm not familiar with. Is, is this the kind of characterization that comes from the games? Is Yennefer
No,
more of
sure.
surface level character that's just kind of like always back and forth without not a lot of growth ever?
I don't know what I would say. In the game, um, if you form a relationship with her, once things start to go her way more, she starts to soften up and open up and everything. But until that, she's very like, I have my goal. This is what I need to get done. And very kind of likes to try to put Geralt in his place at times. It's not a particularly friendly person. And it's
Mhm.
always what turned me off from her. And it was one of those things you got to peel away the layers, and then she's like, okay. But one thing that is true is she cares a lot about Siri. So I want to see
Mhm.
that develop, you know,
Sure.
beyond like she's an asset, because
Okay.
she does not, one of her goals is, or one of the things she feels has been taken away from her, obviously, is the ability to birth a child.
Right.
Gerald has essentially adopted Siri.
Mhm.
There's obviously connections here with how that stuff can be played out.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, game
So
space
that's
theory is very important to her, not on a surface level or because she's just important. She actually
Sure.
really
okay.
cares. So
That's another question that I have then, as someone who hasn't taken the time to read the books, read a bunch of other things, but the characterization is what I really miss out on, right?
Mhm.
Um, does she care about having a child because she wants to be a mother? Or does she care about having a child because she wants the choice to be able to have a child? Like those are two very different things, right? I
yeah,
want to I want to have that autonomy, or I actually want to be a mother. Like
Mhm.
which one does she fall into?
yeah. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I felt like the first season was really about Yennefer's rage at having the choice taken away from her, and therefore like the resulting quest was just like, I need to have my choices back because I need to feel in control. And I felt like this was taken away from me. And then I felt like in the first part of this season with her encounters with the deathless mother and the dreams that she was having that were clearly about her with Geralt having a child was maybe a little bit hinting at she actually does care more deeply and wants to be a mother, because what we know now about that particular character of the deathless mother is that she takes your like very specific pain and just like twists the knife. So if it was about just choice for her, I think there would have been a different dream that she was having. And I think that, in choosing to represent like her dreams this way, there is a hint that she does care about being a mother.
I think that's
Maybe
fair.
maybe not like it's her whole goal and it's like the whole sum total of what she wants out of life, obviously. I don't think she's like just a very maternal person, but I
Right.
think it's very clearly a factor for her.
I I think you're right. They have definitely painted that this season. Um,
Mhm.
which is different from last season. I mean, last season you had the
Yeah.
scene where she's trying to escape that assassin, right? She grabs the
Ugh.
baby, knife goes through her shoulder, kills the baby, and she's having that conversation on the beach then, and she's literally talking like, this you're the lucky one because you
Right.
don't have to fight through this world. You don't have to survive. And she paints a picture of saying, I I don't want to bring somebody up in this. This is a
Mhm.
cruel, terrible world. Um that kind of person in that stage, that they don't want to have a baby by any means.
Mhm.
She pretty well defined that she did not think that this was a fit world to curse somebody to live into,
Mhm.
essentially. Um,
That
so
can
that's
also be
interesting.
rationalizing as well. I mean, we don't know that, as
It's
maybe
true.
that's the way it's painted, but that can
That's
be,
true.
Yeah.
you know,
I think yeah, I would say that yes. Like her having that conversation, I think on many levels was her not ready to have a child, but also sort of, kind of thawing the ice a little bit and making it a little bit more real. It's not just about like I need to heal, like my literal body so that I can have this choice. It was a little bit about um on the one hand, yeah, you are lucky. Like this world isn't fair and I'm literally being reminded of that right now as I have to bury a dead baby that's not my own even though I tried to save it. But I think there is just like that teensy first thawing of, she's trying to grapple with the fact that, this wasn't my baby, but I still tried to save her. I didn't give an F about the mom in the
Right.
end. I was like, take her, whatever. But she's coming to grips with the fact that I did try to save the baby. Maybe there is that part of me that does really want to be a mother, even though in this case it worked out very tragically.
That's a good
Well, and
point.
her relationship with Geralt can change this too. A lot of
Mhm.
people are like, I don't really want to ever settle down, or I don't want to have kids, or I don't, I'm going to do whatever. And then they all of a sudden meet someone. And
Mhm.
well, that's, okay, new outlook.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
So maybe she is growing. Yeah.
mhm. Let's see. Um, did
You
I
know who's
thought
not
this,
growing though? The
Yes,
elven
Gary.
baby.
Oh.
oh, yeah, that's okay. Yep. So that's at the end of episode 7. Yep. That baby is a dunzo.
Yeah.
And the mother is gonna repay the exact same kind of racism that they see against themselves. Same sort of group kind of, well, therefore you all shall suffer.
Yep.
So
Seems
yeah,
pretty
that's
rational.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Though I
Yes.
mean,
Oh, I
I
don't
don't
blame her.
I don't know what I would do if someone like
Right. Yeah.
killed my
And you
baby.
have so much
I don't
power at
blame
your
her at all.
disposal,
Yep.
you know?
I'd do it.
Mm, yeah.
So
Yeah, I was really just absolutely crushed by that scene, even though I was like, with what I'm learning about this Deathless Mother character, kind of the lore we've gotten about, what drives her and what gives her power, I was like, and it's happening. Of course it's happening that you would give someone like their greatest wish, their greatest desire, and just like take it away in the most cruel sense
yep.
and then just be like, set you free to cause pain.
She definitely got the worst end of the stick when it comes to the 3 of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Well, and that's what she fed on, right? That's what Deathless Mother fed on. That's what she needed to be freed. That's what you're saying, Andrea? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
is the ultimate pain.
yeah, she very clearly like set these three up with tools to cause themselves, and others around them pain, and then Francesca in particular, she just like really cruelly gave her exactly what she wanted and then just took it away. Um and
yep.
in a far more uh, I can't think of a better word than cruel, cruel manner than, if the baby had not survived childbirth, there was that moment where
Yeah.
we all were like, oh my God, to have it survive and have Francesca like know something was wrong, but then it was okay. And to feel that comfort and safety of your baby's alive and then taking it away was
Yep.
just, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she gave him hope.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Alright, well, we need to talk about episode 8,
Yes.
because there's a lot going on there. I have, a lot I don't think I liked this episode, actually. I think it's kind of, was one of the lower points, and,
Mm-hmm.
I one of my favorite things, though, did happen here, what I was referring to earlier,
Mm-hmm.
is so we do have, Amir come in. I don't know what point this is, but we have he's on screen right now. We have our Nilfgaardian and then Fringilla, their
Mm-hmm.
plan that they're going to, satisfy Emperor Amir.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had the baby killed. Got it all figured out. And the surprise that, no, actually, I did that. You're both liars. You're in trouble. I love that
Yep.
moment. So that was a good payoff for those two conniving people that have been trying to like save their hides this whole time, recover
Mhm.
face, make something happen, and shot down. So
Yes. Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts about Amir coming on like in this episode. Um I was glad that we were going to like finally see him, see the white flame cuz for the longest time I thought maybe this was just some sort of like god type figure. You know what I mean? I wasn't
okay.
actually sure that the white flame was actually real and a
Yeah, yeah.
person. Do you know what I mean? Like it just sort of felt like this like mythology creation something, and
Like
then
the
it was
Lord of
like
Light.
slow. Right, like, it's just like a shadowy thing that we, believe in, who's giving us these principles from on high, and then it was slowly becoming apparent to me that this was, like, a real person, and then, in this episode, it was, like, all of that payoff of, like, "Okay, it's a real person, we're actually gonna meet them," like, you
Yep.
know, um, and then, yeah, there was obviously that, like, very shocking twist of who this was, which I feel like was made less shocking by like an actor switch. Did anybody else feel like that?
Um actor switch.
Yes.
Is it a
Something
different
I didn't
actor, or does
notice.
his makeup just look different?
It maybe could be that and I just was like, "Okay," because I
You
didn't
mean
get a
from her
good.
visions to present day?
Or do you mean
Yeah, so
season
not
1?
so yeah, so like season 1 and then to now I was like, "I don't feel like that's the same person."
Okay, sure.
And
So
Yeah,
and so
I get you.
I was sort of like, I mean, I get that this is like a big reveal and it is a big reveal and like holy crap, but also like, is that a new guy? Like
Should've just left
mhm,
him be a porcupine. Just leave him be a
right?
yeah,
porcupine, man. Real
Then
easy then.
then I would have been like, "Oh shit." But like I don't feel like I remembered his human face enough to be like,
sure.
am I just,
Oh, that's a good
so
point. Um, yeah, I mean, we only saw his face, his human face for what, all of a minute in the first season?
maybe less, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I do, yeah. I, I think if I didn't have Rachel sitting next to me, it would have pulled me back. But she knew it like right away. I guess,
Right.
and that part of that is because the books are spoilers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I got it spoiled.
Well,
But I
And,
guess,
like, I
yeah,
I got it from the visions and from, like, the trips in the past that we took, but I still was like, I just feel like this is just, like, a little bit less powerful than it could have been. It just didn't have quite the punch of, like, totally blowing my mind. It was, like, half blowing my mind.
yeah. So it was weird for me because I knew that Amir was her father,
Mm, sure.
but I was waiting for reveal. Even though I was seeing the memories,
Mhm.
for some reason in my head, I'm like, because that didn't look at all in my mind like Amir, and they don't say his name.
Yep.
So I'm like, is this like some more adopted parents? You know,
Mhm.
these aren't
Mhm.
their actual parents. That these are people that helped raise her again. That I somehow was missing this.
Yep.
Other than her grandmother, kind of thing. So I was still waiting for the Emir reveal, half hoping it would be Charles Dance because he does the voice in the game, and which is he's an
Tywin Lannister
I know. He's an
rides
imposing
again.
figure. He's got the great deep voice and
yep.
perfect emperor material. And so
Mhm.
this young guy, I just didn't make the connection until they
Yep.
showed him like, oh, okay, well, that really was her parents that she was talking to. And there he is. Okay. So
Mhm.
Well,
he has a
and
lots to go to impress me as Emir.
Mhm.
So
there's also, and this is my own not understanding, but like, goddamn, he hasn't aged at all.
Yeah.
Why? Right? I mean, she's Siri is like, well, if we think that she's 14, 15 years old, right? I guess I would
There'd
have
still be a
expected
little
him to age a
something.
little bit. Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be a really young guy when he got married, right?
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
this child surprise thing took place. Um, so that part threw me a little bit too. I guess I expected him to be older. And it's funny, Alan shared the picture of him from the games. He looks far older and more
Yes.
distinguished in
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So,
He
Yep.
is. Again, an imposing like man, not like a, you know, hipster
Okay.
20 somethings.
So
But
yeah, so Alan says same guy as far as he can tell. But maybe it was just like the makeup that they did in season 1 or something like that, or just like the
I only
maybe
remember
they're
him as
making him more.
Porcupine.
Right, like,
So,
I mean, he does, like, for that, like I said, like, 30 seconds, it's so brief, we see him, and perhaps, they made him up to look more bedraggled because, he's just coming out of an enchantment or, something like that, but it just didn't click in my mind that this is
huh.
the same person.
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
there Alan's got the picture in our chat. That's yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, so it didn't really, like right, is okay, tell me that doesn't look like almost like a different guy
I
when you
mean, I
see,
can
like
see
Yeah.
it. Like the nose obviously is the same, but yeah, I mean, can definitely could think they're different people for
yeah.
sure.
Just, like, a lot of it is so different. It's not even like, "Oh, he has longer hair." It's, like, just something about, like, maybe the angle that's being shot or maybe he lost some weight, like, he's got more defined cheekbones or something. It just doesn't look like quite the same person, so for me, I was just like, "Hey."
Well, there is stuff to unpack there. I mean, it's definitely the angle, but he might have lost weight. I mean, look, Yaskier looks way more jacked in this one. He's had 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
we had a big split between this because of the pandemic. Siri looks 5, 6 years older,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
she's supposed
absolutely.
to be the same age. So there is a little bit of that we have to mold around. I am with you. It did feel off
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy got jacked too.
Yeah. Might as
Could
well,
be.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, side note, yeah. Yaskier just, like, could be a witcher, like,
hmm
based on that body.
hmm
Um, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Both Chris and I were just like, "Should he be that jacked for a bard?" Like
Those abs are for show. They're not fending off monsters. So,
Rachel's
those
sitting
are
next to me, and I'm
for
like,
the
shit.
ladies. Yeah, like,
And
for
she's just,
real.
yeah, you look
I
good.
was just I was just like, "Okay." Yeah, I don't know. It was just funny.
And that is entirely, I also believe that scene is only for his shirtless reveal. That dude must have been like, listen, I got jacked. I want to show people because so far what I've done is walk over to this little river thing, take my shirt off, put it in, and then I put it back on.
Mhm.
yep. Yep.
And you know
Oh,
what? Good for
absolutely.
him. Be
Oh
your
yeah,
own
Oh yeah.
advocate, man.
for sure.
Like, you got jacked, show it off.
It's
Like,
hard. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it was funny. Like, the
Mhm.
whole scene was fun. I mean, him being jacked wasn't funny. But like that whole scene was just like, cool, we're gonna do this shirtless, go get it. Like, you're still funny and like hilarious while you're being shirtless and washing your flowery shirt in a river too.
hmm I don't think
Yep.
he put the shirt back on, did he?
He
He put the
didn't.
No.
jacket back on. He
Yeah.
let yeah. It
Which,
was
Well,
like,
I
because
would too if I look like that.
we forgot. His shirt got ruined by an axe that was thrown by our old friends, the
uh,
dwarves,
yeah.
Yeah.
who showed up.
So I'm
Conveniently.
still waiting for Zoltan. There's a character. So we have, some of Geralt's friends, band of buddies, and Zoltan is
Yes.
one of them, and we haven't seen him yet. I'm still a
Hmm.
little confused where the timing is on this.
Sure.
Exactly how this is spaced out because, like you say, Amir seems like a lot older when we are dealing in the games. Yennefer has a better relationship with Ciri, so there's different stuff. So this is clearly still pre older. It's
Hmm.
you know, but yeah, I'm waiting for. Speaking of dwarves, oh, also speaking of dwarves, they showed the one woman dwarf with the beard.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah.
In my D&D campaigns, let me just say, all dwarves are attractive, basically, especially the women dwarves. So I
Hmm.
am con or against bearded dwarven women.
Hey, we don't know that they
I
all have beards. Just this
That's
one
true.
does.
just
Right.
we don't see many of them. So
Also, like, this was, like, funny, like, not funny, funny, but, like, not terrible bearded dwarven woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, Lord of the Rings, like, Gimli talks about, like, dwarven women, and they're like, "You basically can't tell them apart from dwarven men," and, like, Aragorn's like, "It's the beard." And,
yeah,
like, the way that they talk about it, like, Gimli's like, "Yeah, so people think we don't even have women, like, they're so manly dwarven,
yeah.
almost." And so she's clearly a woman, she just, like, has a beard a little bit.
Was it? I think it was a lot of
Also
it.
in
Wasn't it like a long?
Well, I mean,
Is
yeah,
it,
but you know what I mean, but it isn't like
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
cover her face, it isn't,
Right.
like,
Yes.
crazy, like, I couldn't even tell she's a woman.
Yeah.
Also, Yaskier does, like, a little, like, "Hey, girl." So, like, there's a little something there.
I mean, there's a lot something there with a lot of people for him. Yeah.
I know,
Yep.
but that's part of, like, his charm,
Yes.
though. Even, like, this bearded
Yes.
dwarven woman, he's, like, just making a little moment in the background, like, "Sup?
Yep.
Not
Yep.
afraid to go there."
Yep. Okay, so we got to talk about the battle at Camorin. Things always seem to end up
Yeah.
coming back to Camorin. And this is where, really the rants from last week about the uh proficiencies or lack thereof of the witchers to deal with monsters. I really thought this was a weird this was all the structure of all of this was weird. So Siri
Mhm.
is possessed and by the deathless mother. And
Yes.
so she goes around silently killing a bunch of witchers in Kaer
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's this odd thing where she's found out and confronted and then like runs through the door. And then we have several minutes of like, who did she all kill? Where would she go? Hey, I'm gonna try to make this potion. It's like,
Mhm.
didn't she just run out the door? Like, don't you make chase? Like, I was like, they couldn't find her. She was standing right
Mhm.
in the main hall.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the flow of this entire
Yeah.
thing. And then it seemed like they had somehow this time to plan and mourn people's deaths almost and like get things together. But then with all that time, there was
Right.
really no plan formed. Yennefer didn't really, you know, do anything. Yaskier failed in his mission to just give Geralt a stone.
Mhm.
All they did was watch Witchers die as Geralt tries to talk to Ciri.
Yeah.
Right.
There's this theme in movies and television shows that I'm getting really sick of. It's kind of like the end of well, I can't ruin that, I guess. There's an
Yeah.
anime
Do it.
that's like really cool, and then the end of Andrea know which one I'm talking about. And then the end
Yep.
of it, it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna defeat you with the power of love, basically, is what it is. And then we have a Wonder Woman movie that's like, I'm just gonna talk you down. And there's this weird just like where's the plan? Where's the spell to remove the possession?
Mhm.
Where's the you know the seance that needs to happen, the spiritual trap, something. Meanwhile, there's a few kind of small dragon things that a team full of witchers can't deal with.
I have an explanation for that one. I've been
Ooh.
with you 100% of the way, all the way
Okay.
up to here.
Okay.
Continue though, because I love your rants. They make me happy.
No, I mean that's weird. I just thought the structure of the episode was weird.
Mhm.
Losing Siri and having this pause in time was weird. Not
Yes.
having a real plan. Otherwise, none of the Witchers. Okay, so they're sending shards of stuff back and forth. Okay, so some of the Witchers can manage to turn around fast enough to block it, and some can't. I mean, what would you do if you were in Vesemir's shoes and this little girl was offing your entire squad of Witchers one at a time? Like, just everybody's failing. It just seemed like a really poorly executed everything.
Well, and why is Vesemir not the one that comes up with the solution here? Again,
Yes.
again, this makes Geralt seem like he is the only elite one. Vesemir is supposed to be the dude. If he's not physically capable, he's supposed to have more knowledge about this
Mhm.
than anyone. And he's just like, man, we just gotta kill her. We just kill
Yeah.
her.
Right.
Like that,
Yep.
I don't know.
Again, someone that, maybe we get this later, but forms a very fatherly kind of bond with Siri, and like
Mhm.
you think all the time that she's spent there now and the training that's happening and stuff, like there'd be an attachment there other than like you say, we just need to kill her. And you'd
Mhm.
think this team of Witchers would be able to come up with something better than Siri, you can fight it. You can do it, Siri. Listen to
Mhm.
me. It's me, Geralt. You could snap out of it, You're just all gonna die with that kind of plan.
Yeah. Well, this talking went on way too long and there was no variation on it.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like there was no
Yep.
it was a lot of Henry Cavill saying like you can fight this, you can do it, come back Siri, like you're
Yep.
strong. There was no other like I believe in you Siri. We've been together and I know how hard you've been working and you've been here with us and like he doesn't have to go into like even like I feel like I'm your father and I love you and like crazy emotion, but maybe something more than like you can fight it. Do you
Mhm.
know what
How
I
about
mean? Like
yeah?
he just didn't have any other sentences. He didn't have any other words to give. And it was like, come on, this clearly isn't working. Like why wouldn't you try? If you think this is truly the path, if you can talk her out of it, be more convincing.
Yeah.
Convince her that she can do this. Like
Yeah.
tell her like this is the deathless mother, like she's possessing you, like this isn't real, whatever she's making you see, the world that you're in right now. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, but I do know you can get out. Like I just came up with something on the fly that I think is better than you can do it.
Mhm.
Agreed. You are my destiny. Your grandmother would never
Right.
stand for this, right?
Right.
She would never let this happen because you have all of this stuff about how much Siri looks up to her grandmother and wants to be like her.
Think a
Exactly.
Who's
mouse
that?
sack.
Yeah,
Right.
Any loved
yeah,
ones you're familiar with. I think
right.
there's a lot of this could have been helped in editing. All they
Mhm.
need to do. I still think there should have been a plan, more magic involved,
I
more
mean, I
witchers
agree
doing
with you.
cool things. But if you're gonna stick to this, all you need to do is when she runs out and you make chase, make the shot where she disappears. She's like not to be seen now. You need like look
Mhm.
around confused. Where does she go? Then we see her. We're gonna have to see her in her mind being swayed and convinced that showing everything that she likes. But all of a sudden, she needs to hear Geralt's voice and be awoken. And then we cut to the outside and Geralt has found her. Maybe she's locked in some sort of physical bind.
Mhm.
They found her and surrounded her and stuff. And so on the outside, she begins attacking, but we don't need this cut back because they cut back and forth so much
To
over
inside
long
and
periods of
outside,
times,
yeah.
inside and outside. And so it makes it feel like you're standing there letting everybody die for 10 minutes.
For a long time.
Yeah, that should be
Mhm.
quick. All of a sudden, because time is irrelevant in her mind, so we can spend time viewing her wanting to be there and all that stuff. But as soon as we're kicked back out to reality and then
That
back
needs
in,
to yeah.
you can't do that. You need to have
Right.
the moment where,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do think that her getting to like the heart of Camorin and to this like Witcher tree, whatever
yeah,
this was, like that was baller, like the whole like location, the untwisting, and it tied back into like obviously our opening titles where all of this was like hinted at in which like, this tree was formed and unformed. A monolith was there. So we're kind of like tying back into the monoliths, which have been largely like a plot point, but not a well explained one, I think,
Yeah.
this season. So there were elements of this that I think needed to happen the way they did. And there were other elements, like you said, John, um, where, she like cuts Geralt's face and runs out of the room and everybody just stands there like, oh shit.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
nobody reacts to that. And like you said, nobody chases after her and is like, we need to do something about this. They
Yeah.
just like stand there.
There's no
And
time
then
for
suddenly they
planning.
have like 10 minutes to like, you know, get our like battle up montage where everybody grabs a potion and
Yep.
Yennefer's like, I'm gonna do some stuff. So yeah, so that was very odd timing wise.
Mhm. Now, Mike, you said you don't agree with, obviously, if you have any comments on that stuff, but if otherwise you said you don't agree with the
Dragons.
Witchers and the monsters they're fighting and being lame.
Basilisks, right? So
Sure.
these basilisks are pulled from another dimension, right?
Mhm.
They are, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at least
Mhm.
as my current viewer, it makes logical sense to me because witchers cannot travel between dimensions, that they
Mhm.
would be incredibly well informed and well capable of fighting monsters of this dimension. They have history to it. But they do say that these basilisks are coming from another
Mm.
dimension. And then we see that when later, when Siri teleports them into the monolith dimension, whatever. Um, and so we know that they're being pulled from there. And you even get a passing comment from The Witcher of saying, I've never seen a basilisk like this before. And also,
Mhm.
they're big, giant raptor things.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They're massive, right? And I think was there three or four of them? But
Mm.
so to me, that was at least enough for me to go, okay, I can buy why they are struggling with these. Perhaps the things that they believe to be solutions
Mhm.
for our dimension's basilisks are not effective
Mhm.
with these ones.
Nope, I don't give 'em
I
a
I
pass.
Okay.
I I actually I do agree with you, Mike, because I was thinking when they came out and they were kind of, um taken aback and having such a hard time. I was thinking back to in this season when they were talking about the Leshy and how like, well, everybody knows you have to heat up a sword and it's like, red hot sword through the heart. Like everybody knows that. So I was thinking like maybe there's something very specific they have to do to kill them. Like you can't just like cut off in the beginning I was thinking that. Obviously later we see Geralt take care of one again, which I kind of had a problem with because again it showcases Geralt as like the only capable witcher. I'm like, we could have had other guys figure this out. Like even if they were taken aback at first and I felt that it was right that they had trouble with them because there was maybe some very specific solution to killing them. Then when it turned out that Geralt could kill one, I was like, okay, well, we could have had the other witchers do that too then. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
frustrated with this like back and forth. I'm frustrated with this like, okay, I give them a pass because X, but then okay, Geralt can do it, so why can't everybody do it? It is frustrating to me.
That is
Yeah.
a good point. And they even set it up because that Leshy, they said they're not normally capable of
Right.
turning another person into one. They've never seen that happen.
Right, right.
So
So like so yeah, so I'm sitting there buying into these like, okay, it's new creatures, like, we have to find new solutions. Our old stuff doesn't work, but then it does seem that Geralt can do it.
They have to be able to
So,
think on their feet, you know? They're gonna
well,
run
that's
into,
what I mean. Like, why
yeah,
can only Geralt think on his feet? I think
right.
that's poor writing in the sense of like, why can't other Witchers do this?
Mhm. It could have been a redemptive thing where Yennefer was the one trying to relate to Ciri and pull her out of it and, you know, using some potion she whipped up or something while Geralt
Mhm.
is dealing with, other things more. But I think that again we don't see the birth of powers, the like wide breadth of powers that we could be seeing where the
Mhm.
Witchers are just there getting swatted around and hacking at them with swords. That's all
Right.
we're getting. They're just like knights. Knights in kind of leather armor. That's all they are.
sure,
Because why don't we see the moment when they're grabbing potions and stuff? Why don't they like make a moment like don't waste these? They only have like 3 or something. And those are the
Mhm.
ones that like basically slow down time for them. We'd have
Mhm.
these cool moments where they're like sliding under a dragon's wing, stabbing them in the belly,
Right.
cutting a hole open and then bursting fire into their chest cavity or something like that.
Yep.
All in like slow time, they were doing that. They could have things where they're using some sort of explosions to like knock rubble from the ceiling on top of them to pin them down, while others
Mhm.
like tie them down with ropes or something like that, shoot hooks into them. Again, no bows and arrows, with poison coatings or anything like that. Like, did anyone
Mhm.
try a poison on them? Like, there's just, again, they show they had time to plan, to get equipment, to do things, and now they're faced with beasts. These are the only Witchers we have left, and we see nothing but hacking at him with swords. It was
Mhm.
pathetic. And then Geralt has to come in when most of them are dead and save the day. Vesemir doesn't do anything. It's, he just gets knocked down. It's just not, someone is not caring enough about making The Witcher and the Witchers cool and powerful and
Mhm.
competent. Someone's not caring about that enough.
Mhm.
They're, because I
Someone
like, well, I mean, the
showrunner.
writers, yeah, showrunner, they're not,
Yeah.
as I said, with the fighting stuff, there's not enough imagination there.
Mhm.
You need someone that's doing effects or fight choreography or something that like gets off on the awesomeness that can happen it's like when you see Wonder Woman beat down people, the way Zack Snyder does that in things is gives you chills. Like if you're into that, or you see a really good martial arts movie or
Mhm.
something, and there's a fight sequence, like it's just like someone had the creativity to make something visceral and creative and amazing. And in this, they're just worried about talking to each other
Mhm.
and the political happenings of the world or something.
Mhm.
Talking to each other with surface level dialogue. You're
Yeah,
right.
Mhm.
right. With no passion there and stuff.
Mhm.
I just I it, this would be okay uh 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Like the standard has risen of
Mhm.
like effects and combat, and I credit some again to Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter.
Mhm.
Fantasy combat and stuff. Think of the cool shit that Legolas does. I mean, some of
Mhm.
that's not going to fit in here, but like riding down the stairs on the back of a shield, like shooting arrows on reasonably fast speeds, or like
Taking
sliding
down the
off the trunk
Oliphant.
of yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Use your imagination. Do this
Yeah.
stuff, like no.
Yeah, I mean, I really think we're talking about, like, 2 separate but related things. Like, when you say, like, think about the cool things that, like, have happened in Lord of the Rings, like, that's whoever, needs to be thinking that way needs to be thinking about that shit for the Witchers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they're the ones
Yeah.
who should be doing that, like, cool fighting stuff. For when we're addressing the problem of, like, we didn't feel like, Geralt and Ciri fighting the Deathless Mother and trying to get her out of Ciri was in any way, shape, or form, like, compelling. It was very, like, surfacey. Somebody needs to be thinking about, like, this is, like, the season finale. This is, like, a big
Yeah.
bad boss. Like, this could have flown with some, like, lesser spirit. Like, when I think back to, like, season 1 is it the genie or the djinn
Yeah, the Jen,
that they
yeah.
were, yeah, some, like, trickster thing inhabits Siri, and they gotta just, like, talk it out of her, like, would have bought that. It didn't need to be big and emotional and crazy, for some, like, lesser being, but this is, like, the Deathless Mother who, like, caused havoc all season, created some wild shit, is in Siri, who we know is crazy powerful,
Mhm.
and we're just talking. Like, we need this to be more. We need this to feel like a struggle, and it didn't.
And then ultimately they just like go into another plane and she just
Mhm.
departs. She just wanted to go home.
Well, mm, I was kind of okay with that in the sense of, like, very sneak peeky for, like, what I think is happening next season, and I
Well,
obviously, like,
yeah.
we don't have
Yeah.
time to get into that, but yes,
Mhm.
it was a little strange to just, like, pop in there, deposit the Deathless Mother, like, get out. Like
I I live
They
like,
on
didn't
bank
everyone's
solve any.
deposit,
plane.
like,
Yeah.
"Thank
Yep.
you, bye."
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's no
But
solution, right?
yeah,
No.
it was just, like, a continuation of that problem. It was all very, like, surface level. We
And they
didn't,
really didn't
like,
do
vanquish the Deathless
any.
Mother.
Yeah. Right. And then the Wild Hunt shows up in that thing, and it's like fiery and orange tinted. The Wild
Mhm.
Hunt's always in ice. They're all about cold. The beasts they come with, they're like these like demon dog things that are like have ice all over them and stuff. Those are their servants and
Ooh.
stuff. It's all frosty from their mouth. When the wild hunt's been around, everything is cold when they've appeared, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, here, Alan put a picture on. They're
Yeah,
cool, they're
Is
scary.
this the Wild Hunt
That's
from the
from the game,
game?
yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's interesting because I was thinking about, like, other lore I know of the Wild Hunt, and they do usually in a couple of things that I've read, it's flame, but it's not hot. It's, like, cold
Sure.
flame.
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I mean?
well,
So, like,
Yep.
kind of the yeah.
in Norse, yeah, in Norse mythology, right, it is the wild hunt and Surtur, right? And so,
Mhm.
I mean, that is flame. That the apocalypse for them is essentially an explosion, a volcano. Um, so I get that, and I've seen Wild Hunt in a lot of different kinds of depictions, and this isn't the game
Yep.
version of it, and I get that. But to your point, sometimes it does feel like this show is changing shit just to flip and change it, just
Mhm.
to do it. Um, and I don't know what realm that was that they were popping into, but I do know that the Wild
Mhm.
Hunt is supposed to traverse many
Right.
different realms. Right, that's their whole
Mhm.
thing. Their whole shtick is that
Yep.
they figured out a way to do it outside of the convergence. So they might not have been from their home place, and maybe that's how they
Right.
manifest in that.
Just seemed like a weird thing to me
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
our first appearance that it
yeah,
wasn't, yeah, but
that makes
Totally
sense.
agree.
I would have liked to seen, circling back to the Witchers fighting the basilisks. You're
Mhm.
right. It would be way cooler to see the Witchers trying all of those things. I'd still be cool with them all failing. Like these basilisks have, some sort of skin that is made out of like what the monolith is made out of, and it's damn near indestructible. And so that's why dropping rocks and shit on them doesn't work. That's why they can't slide under them and cut them up. But to your point, they didn't try any of it. So
yep.
No, yeah, that's
I
what I
get it.
mean. Like
Yep.
Yeah,
like I bought into that premise of they're different. We've never seen things like this before. They're harder to kill, but yeah, I needed an explanation or I needed them to figure shit out.
And I would have bought that more too if we'd seen them be so proficient before, because that would
Yeah.
create an extra impact. If they're like, these guys are the shit, like they can
They're
do
having
this.
trouble. Oh,
And
fuck,
now,
yeah.
yeah, these things come in from a different dimension. Like, what are we getting ourselves into going forward with all these new things coming? Now we're going to have problems. But
yeah.
Right.
they didn't do that. So,
I mean, a little girl did just murder them all by herself.
yes. Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Well, I just had to say then too, I was happy to see the reveal that they did reveal Philippa, the owl. So
Mhm.
going through this series, I'm like,
I
okay, when are they gonna
knew that
show her?
owl was a
When are they gonna show
person.
her? Yeah,
Ugh.
Philippa, that I won't say. But yeah. It's another race swap, but I think like costume wise and like just structure and stuff, I'm excited to see what they do with her. She
She
is
looked cool.
yeah, she is an interesting character. There's a lot I want to say about her, but I guess I mean they could change it all. I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited for Philippa's role.
Mhm.
So something to look forward to. Um, Final thoughts, things we really missed, things you gotta get off your chest, things that like ultimately, yeah, things we haven't discussed or hopeful for going forward.
do you
So
want to go, Andrea?
I yeah, I mean I'll close with a singular thought. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different things that could be happening in season 3. Like we've got a peek at like other dimensions now. We can travel to these worlds inside monoliths. We've got a peek at the Great Hunt, or the Wild Hunt, whatever you want to call it. Um, so we have plenty of storyline possibilities there. But one thing I'm interested in, I think, is you know this kind of trade-off that happens at the end here, where Yennefer attempts to sacrifice herself for Ciri and say like I'll take in the deathless mother, kind of like gets that all worked out and gets back to herself, and then drops this bomb of, hey, I got healed, you know and Geralt's like, okay, well, now you're going to be Ciri's teacher and you're going to like teach her and guide her in the ways of magic and all of that.
So
Um, so I was just like, okay, well, that's convenient. Um, and also healed. Like, did you guys get the sense that that was like bodily or that was I got my power back
I
or
got the
both?
I
I
mean,
felt like
I
it was I
know,
got
so I
the
want to
power.
say,
Damn
You
it,
felt like
John.
it was power back?
I felt like it was power back. Like again, like another thing. Like it's resolved. Yay!
Yeah. Yeah. So on the one hand, I was like, cool. I guess I'm glad that that's going to work out, and they're going to like, hopefully form like a better bond in the next season. On the other hand, that's like incredibly convenient that we're just like swapping Triss with Yennefer because in the beginning it was like I brought Triss here to like teach you your magic and be your guide, and then like she just went away and got dropped for the
you just
rest of
get
the
scared and
season.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
it
and
just totally like dropped her storyline, and then it was like enter Yennefer. So,
yeah, for sure.
interesting.
Mhm.
And their
Would it be
explanation
interest
just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Well,
Mhm.
you're in a different dimension, so you got exposed to chaos again. Huh?
right.
Why?
Like,
Why does that matter?
cool.
I
Cool.
mean, it's a tricky thing with magic. It's magic. Certain
Make
things
it up.
do it really well. Again, I bring up Full Metal Alchemist. It's alchemy, but it's like magic. But
Mhm.
it's when they try to base it on something or they try to explain it sometimes
Right.
that can lose its luster or something special about it. But when you just are going to accept that it's magic, it's just magic, and the source of magic is chaos or whatever, then yeah, it's kind of
Mhm.
like, well, we can make up a bunch of stuff because
Mhm.
magic.
Yeah, but to your point, they did try and ground it in some level of explanation, and so now you need those explanations
Mhm.
to have logical consistency, and this doesn't. Like, are you telling me there is no chaos in the current realm anymore? Then why can she not tap into it, right? The idea
Mhm.
was she couldn't tap into chaos. She couldn't contain chaos anymore. And then you're like, yeah, but this is like a different chaos. So you get it again. It's like, what? What are you
Right.
talking
And
about?
and I was sort of interested to figure out so the character we got introduced to, um, Rience, um, does fire magic and clearly like doesn't burn himself out. So like maybe was there going to be something there for Yennefer to be like, exploring that? Well, like how does he do it? How can I do it? Like, you know, there, you know, there just didn't seem to be like rules there, consistent rules there. And I was interested in finding out more about that. And then it was just like, okay, well, quick and dirty fix. Like, let's just give her some chaos and she's fine. As we deposit the Deathless Mother over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Made a deposit, made a withdrawal. Thank you.
Yeah.
This realm. Peace
What a
out.
nice exchange.
Right?
Yeah, evil
How handy to
cursed
be in that
spirit,
realm.
ancient spirit that just
Mhm.
decides they're good with being gone, and then my magic in return. Perfect.
Yep. Thanks.
Mhm. Yep. How about you, Mike?
I think we've done a really good job of summarizing it. The
Mhm.
last thing that I will say is I know you're not supposed to take Rotten Tomatoes as gospel, right? By any means.
Mhm.
And there is always a very funny dynamic with Rotten Tomatoes. I will base whether or not I want to see a movie on if the critic consensus is low, then I want to see it. If the critic consensus is high, I don't want to waste my time typically. And if you look at Witcher season one, the critic consensus is a 68%. Audience score, 90%. So out of 21,000 ratings, people liked season one. There are
Mhm.
some mishaps for sure, but people
Mhm.
liked it. Season two, you got a, critic rating of 94%, shocking, and an audience score of 60%. It's a perfect correlation once again,
Mhm.
right? There's 53 critics that have done it, and there's over 4,000 for the audience score that have given it 60%. So I hope that these criticisms that people have brought up, ourselves included, even though we like the material overall,
Mhm.
I hope they look at that. And I hope for season three, they try not to be better storytellers of something that is already beloved. Just go back to it. Just tell me what it is already. Just tell me the story that's already there because it's clearly beloved. You don't need to do a better job, and you're clearly not going to thus far.
Mhm.
And I think the reason I bring that up is season one is said to have followed the books, the games, much more closely to the source material than season two has, which
Sure.
is clear in a lot of the characterization. So I hope they look at that and fix it with season three.
Yeah. I'd say that it's definitely a common problem today. People wants to get a beloved property, and then it's not about doing justice to that beloved property. It's about
Mhm.
telling the story they want with something that
Mhm.
has name recognition. And
Right.
so it's you can draw someone in with the first few episodes or even with the first season, and then people like it, so then you feel emboldened to change it.
Yep.
And it not only allows you to, you're creative, you can flex that, you put your stamp on it, your mark, you know. So it's like a pride thing, look what I, you know, brought to this. So I think it's a thing that perpetuates the industry for sure.
Mhm.
Um, I will say that I think that um, they did clearly listen to some feedback from the first season and things they did change. Particularly thinking of Triss,
Mhm.
and just like the simple changes there to make her come in line with more how she looks or how fans are used to her looking. Um, but then some steps back, and they clearly had some more budget, so we had some better effects and some better
Oh yeah.
monsters and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yep.
then, yeah,
They look
going needlessly going against, some of the biggest, you know, bring it up again,
Or yeah.
with Lambert and,
Haskell.
just yeah, Eskel as well. So it's,
well, and the things that we're talking about that don't seem to make sense to us, they are plot points that they have changed from the source material.
Mhm.
Vesemir, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up, right? We talked about why that didn't have any
Mhm.
continuity. That wasn't congruent, and
Right.
that's what you changed. Don't do it.
Mhm.
yep,
Eskel, you didn't need to do that. I don't even know who
Mhm.
Eskel is, but I know you
Mhm.
didn't need to do that based on what people said.
Mhm.
Like, stop it.
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, it seems so funny to me to like have an actor that looks and embodies Vesemir so closely, and then have his personality not to not care enough to make his personality and like his character choices match Vesemir's character. Do you know what I
mhm,
mean? Like it's totally like out of whack to me to just like be like, this is Vesemir. Like, look how closely he matches to the game. Like, look how you know what I mean? Like it's just so familiar and the same, and then suddenly like he's a different person. Like, why
yeah,
not just cast a totally different person so I
Right.
don't even think about Vesemir that way if you're just gonna, like, change things?
And
yep,
even
So it's
if you
much
do
more
that,
disconcerting to me to do this and to change his personality that way.
right. But even if you do that, you still have to tell a logical story. Their
Yes.
motivations still have to make sense. You can't have this guy who leads the Witchers be like, "Let's turn you, the one who has our blood that we
Little girl,
need to
yeah.
make more Witchers, into the first Witcher and probably kill you." Like,
Right.
no. So,
Right.
yeah. No, and it's it's a sad state where these properties that have the name recognition that will have a built-in fan base, that they don't bother to find someone that really cares about that thing. Like, we're lucky that Henry Cavill cares about the thing. Like,
yeah.
what has
Mhm.
he changed? Well, I think I've heard him say that he's brought up lines. He's like, Geralt wouldn't say that, And
Mhm.
so, because if if any fan that I know was making this, there are just things you wouldn't do because it would
Mhm.
offend you. Like, the thing you love, that it would hurt you to change it.
Right.
Even if you felt it was necessary for adapting it to television, those things would still hurt you. In interviews, you'd be like, I really didn't want to change this from the source,
Mhm.
but ABC is why it just didn't feel like it would work for us in the
Mhm.
live action setting context.
Mhm.
And that doesn't come out. And it's I don't know. It's just too bad. It's too bad that that a studio gets the rights to something, finds someone that wants to tell their own story with an existing story they're given, and I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's where we're at. And
Yep.
I guess I got to be happy that it's as ends up as cool as it is a lot of times.
Mhm.
Thanks.
So
Thanks for the visuals. The visuals are good. Um,
Thanks for
one
Henry
of those.
Cavill.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess the showrunner wanted to put a joke in to Roach's death, and Cavill was like, "No,
Hmm.
that's not what this situation is about."
I heard that
And she's
too,
like,
yeah.
"Okay, then you give me a line," and he did. He went in and found that speech from the books, and he's like, "This is something that he would say. This is a good thing." And then,
Mhm.
And wouldn't the
thankfully,
writers know that? You
well,
know?
thankfully, she was at least like, "Cool, good, you're right,"
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So there's elements of that. That's why I think there's hope for season 3.
Yep.
Mhm.
I agree. The thing I don't have much hope for, I guess, is that the Netflix seems content with the rights now to Witcher to make a lot of Witcher.
Yeah.
I didn't think that their animated thing on Vesemir was particularly great, or particularly in
Mhm.
line with how I would imagine Vesemir in there as well. And then at the end, we get the tease of Witcher Blood Origin, which is a new series they're going to do,
Yep.
and probably I'm guessing the origin of the Witchers. And immediately when I saw that, I thought this looks low budget again. The exact thing I went from watching Wheel of Time to the first episode of season 2 of The Witcher, where I'm like, an adult show with like money behind it and someone that can direct. I saw this trailer. I'm like, oh, child stuff again. We're going young adult. It's everybody looks clean.
Mhm.
It's gonna be some sort of poppy. No, so yeah, I'm
That is
not excited
supposed
for
to
that show.
be that is supposed to be the story of series Elder Blood. So the first elves.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
so I mean, it sounds like a great. I mean, anything in The Witcher to me is like potential for great storytelling. But just like what I'm seeing off of that trailer
Mhm.
shouts
Mhm.
that they're not sure about it and they're not giving it the money or the people with the talent to make it.
Sure.
So, but what a like positive ending note. Like I just
Everybody go
yeah.
watch The Witcher.
Yeah.
Look at the level of conversation that it's drum up, though. It's
Yes.
For real,
excellent.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I totally think it's worth watching. I think it's fun. I think ultimately I generally enjoyed everything I saw or
Mhm.
my time with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I
Yeah, I
expect
mean,
more. Give me more.
yeah. There's
Better.
nothing there's
Do
nothing wrong
better.
with that. There's nothing wrong with, like, I think in with anything, you're never gonna get something that's perfect. You're never gonna get something that you say, "I have no criticisms." Um, and unfortunately, I think with season 2, we had a little bit more than I think if we'd just been discussing season 1, but that doesn't mean there's still not hope for this property and that there still wasn't particularly strong moments this season. Like I said, like episode 5, I thought there was like some steps forward, even though we stumbled again later. Like there are still clear, strong moments that make me um drawn in and make me compelled to watch the show. And I just hope to see more of them in season 3.